Alright, so this tutorial is to show how to create an image to make it look like it was made with vector art. You're going to want to take any image you have, such as off the internet or a picture, and bring it into Photoshop. Preferably you want to use a face just because it makes it look great with the vector art, but it could be pretty much anything you want. So what you're going to want to do is start by opening up Photoshop and then taking the image you have, my image is a face, and dragging it into Photoshop. Once you have the image into Photoshop, you're going to want to unlock the background by clicking the lock button, double click it, and press OK. Then you want to erase the background by clicking the magic erase tool. You do this by going to the erase tool, holding it down, dragging, and going to the magic erase tool, and knocking out the background by clicking on the white area. If there's any watermarks, if you took it off the internet, just erase those along with the background. Next, you want to create a new layer by hitting this button and dragging it underneath your picture layer, going to the gradient tool button, which is always shown, holding it and going to the paint bucket tool. Make sure that black is selected and fill in the background. Go back to your image, and if there are any edges that don't look right, you can erase those by just using the erase tool, which takes up some time but makes the edges not look so rough. My picture has a lot of edges, but just trying to get rid of them quickly so we can get to the actual vector portion of the video. So once you have the picture the way you want it, you're going to want to duplicate it by right-clicking on it. If you do not know how to right-click with the Mac button, with the Mac mouse, go to Applications, System Preferences, Mouse. Go to where it should say Primary button, and make sure the secondary button is selected. Once the secondary button is selected, right-click on it and go to Duplicate Layer. Your new layer should come up as a copy right above the other layer, and then you will want to desaturize it. To desaturize, you do Command-Shift-U, which takes all the color out of this picture. The reason you unsaturize the picture is because it takes all the color, which makes it easier to edit once you put the vector art portions into it. Now go to Filter and Displace, not Displace, my bad. Filter and Lens Blur. For lens blur, you want to make sure your settings are under the source is transparency, the radius is 10, and make sure these two are 0. Press OK when those are done. So now it's blurred. Before you move on, make sure you go to File, Save as, name it whatever you want, save it to the desktop. You're going to want to use this later when you bring in the vector art. Now you're going to want to open up a new file and put it however many preferences you want for inches and such. I'm just going to do 11 by 17 to make sure it's a bigger file. Again, you want to unlock the background, and you're going to want to knock out the background. Make it easier to put your shapes into your picture. You can make any shape you want pretty much with any brush you want. Going to brusheasy.com, you can get a lot of brushes there. I'm just going to use a line brush I found and make it slightly bigger. So once you have the shape you want to Command A, which selects the entire picture, and Command C, which copies it. Go back into your other picture and do Command V to paste it. Now, once this is in, adjust it the way you want it to, such as hitting Command T to be able to move it and position it to where you want. Also, feel free to erase any parts of the image you don't want showing up in the final product. I suggest doing multiple layers for this, so just if you want to use the same shape, keep doing Command V to just keep pasting the shape you made before, which makes it easier to just keep making shapes for your final product. Again, erase any shapes you don't want. And I suggest doing this at least 3 or 4 times, just so you can get a really good final product in. So once you have your shapes selected, now you want to go back to your original colored layer and duplicate that layer for as many shapes as you have and pull them over each shape. After you want the order to be face, shape, etc. for as many shapes as you have. Now the next step is actually, before you do that, you're going to want to displace the shapes. So you need to go to Filter, Distort, Displace. Keep these the same and select the picture you saved before. This will flatten the image and make it easier to edit later on. And continue that for every shape you have in the picture. After you have all the objects displaced, then you want to duplicate each layer and put them over each shape. And again, do that for as many shapes as you have. So once you have each layer over the shape, go to the first layer and hit Clipping Mask, and do that just by left clicking for each one, or right clicking for each one, and create the clipping mask. This will flatten the colored images into the shapes, and then you're going to want to take your original shape and pull it above your black and white one. So the shapes can't be seen right now because they're flattened into the image, so you want to go to each shape, go to Layer, Layer Style, Drop Shadow. Your shapes will appear because the shadow underneath accents them, and put the opacity at 10. You want the distance to be at least 12, and the spread to be about 10 or 9, and the size can be however big you want. Continue doing that for each shape layer that you have. And as you can see, the vector art portion of it is starting to appear. Once you are completed with your drop shadow and everything's the way you want it, you are finished creating it to make it look like it was made out of vector art. The perks of this is it gives it added depth and it lets you add shapes into your actual picture. It looks like it allows the vector art to come out of the picture and creates a really unique and interesting effect with multiple layers. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you find it useful. Yeah.